Rain hammered against the windows of Daniel Hayes's small apartment, the kind of relentless downpour that blurred the world into streaks of gray. It had been another long day at the auto repair shop, his hands raw from hours of tightening bolts and changing tires. All he wanted was to sit on the couch, maybe watch something mindless on TV, and forget about the stack of bills waiting on the counter. His 7-year-old daughter, Mia, was already asleep in her little room, her soft snores barely audible over the storm outside. Just as Daniel began to drift off, a sudden, frantic knock echoed through the hall, sharp, desperate, and out of place in the quiet of the night. He froze, heart pounding. No one ever came to their door this late. He hesitated, then pulled himself up and approached slowly, every instinct on alert. When he opened the door, a blast of cold rain swept in, followed by the sight of a woman standing under the flickering porch light. She was drenched from head to toe, her hair plastered to her face, her clothes clinging to her like a second skin. "I'm sorry," she stammered, voice trembling. "My car broke down the street, and I just need somewhere to stay until morning. Please." Daniel's first instinct was caution. He was a single father, and letting a stranger in at night felt risky. But then he saw the way her hands shook, the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she tried and failed to hold herself upright. She wasn't a threat, she was scared, cold, and alone. "You can come in," he said finally, stepping aside. The woman hesitated for only a second before rushing in, dripping water onto the floor. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel fetched a towel and handed it to her, then offered a faded blanket and the couch. "It's not much, but it's warm," he said. She smiled weakly, her voice barely audible. "I'm Claire." He nodded. "Daniel." For a while, neither spoke, the only sound was the rain pounding against the roof. As Daniel watched her curl up on the couch, exhaustion overtaking her, he didn't realize that opening his door tonight would be the beginning of a miracle neither of them could have imagined. Sunlight filtered weakly through the thin curtains, replacing the sound of pounding rain with the gentle hum of a new morning. Daniel blinked awake, momentarily forgetting the strange events of the night before. But when the smell of something warm and sweet drifted from the kitchen, he sat up, confused. He expected the apartment to be quiet, but instead, he heard laughter, soft, cheerful, and unmistakably Mia's. When he walked into the kitchen, he froze. There was Claire, her hair now dry and brushed, standing at the stove flipping pancakes as Mia sat at the table, her cheeks puffed with syrupy bites. "Good morning," Claire said with a shy smile. "I hope you don't mind. I wanted to do something to thank you." Daniel blinked, caught between surprise and disbelief. No one had cooked in this kitchen besides him since his wife passed away 3 years ago. The simple scene, warm food, laughter, sunlight, felt like a dream he didn't realize he'd missed so much. "You didn't have to do that," he said, trying to keep his voice even. "I just didn't want to leave without showing my gratitude," she replied softly. Over breakfast, the three of them talked easily, as if they'd known each other for years. Claire told them about her job in marketing and how she'd been traveling to visit an old friend before her car gave up in the storm. Mia asked her 1,000 questions, and Claire answered each one with patience and warmth that made the little girl beam. Daniel couldn't help but smile at how natural it all felt, the laughter, the conversation, the quiet joy. But when Claire glanced at her phone, her expression changed. A flicker of worry crossed her face before she stood abruptly. "I should probably go," she said, her tone gentle but firm. Daniel nodded, though part of him didn't want her to leave. Before stepping out, she pulled out her phone and made a quick call, her voice low but urgent. "Yes, it's me. I found him," she whispered, before hanging up and turning back to Daniel. "Thank you again for everything," she said with a warm smile. "You'll understand soon." And with that, she was gone, leaving Daniel standing in the doorway, confused and curious about what she meant. He didn't know it yet, but that one mysterious call had already begun to change the course of his entire life. 3 days passed, and Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Claire. Her sudden appearance, and even more sudden disappearance, had left a strange emptiness in the apartment. Mia asked about her every morning, wondering if their new friend would come back. Daniel had no answer. Life slipped back into routine, long hours at the auto shop, short evenings with Mia, and a quiet ache that something had shifted. It was late afternoon when his boss, Greg, called him into the office. "You've got visitors," he said, looking oddly nervous. Daniel wiped the grease from his hands and walked out, expecting a customer complaint, but what he saw made him freeze. 2 men in black suits stood by the reception desk beside a sleek black car. "Mr. Daniel Hayes?" one asked. "Our CEO would like a word with you." Daniel blinked in confusion. "CEO? Of what?" The man handed him a business card, Crestline Motors corporate office. The same company whose parts he'd been ordering for years. Before he could protest, they politely insisted, and within an hour, Daniel found himself standing in the glass elevator of a downtown skyscraper, still wearing his oil-stained uniform. When the elevator doors opened, his heart nearly stopped. Claire was there, elegant, confident, and completely transformed in a tailored suit. Her hair was neatly tied back, and her eyes glowed with warmth when she saw him. "Daniel," she said with a smile, stepping forward. "I'm so glad you came." He stood speechless. "Claire, what is this?" She took a deep breath. "I owe you the truth. I wasn't just a stranded traveler. I'm Claire Bennett, Regional Director at Crestline Motors. The night you helped me, I was on an unannounced evaluation trip to see how our partner shops treat people, especially those who can't offer anything in return." She handed him a folder with his name on it. Inside was an official job offer, manager position, double his salary, full benefits. "You helped a stranger without hesitation," she said softly. "That's the kind of heart I want leading our new division." Daniel's eyes burned as he looked from the paper to her. "You mean, this is real?" Claire smiled and nodded. "Completely." For the first time in years, Daniel's chest swelled not with struggle, but with hope. The call she made that morning had indeed changed everything. Weeks passed, and Daniel's life transformed in ways he never imagined. His new position at Crestline Motors gave him stability, respect, and the chance to finally breathe without the constant weight of overdue bills. He moved Mia into a brighter apartment with a little balcony and a view of the city lights. Laughter filled their home again, something he hadn't heard since his wife passed away. And almost every week, Claire visited. Sometimes she came by to discuss business, bringing folders and schedules, but more often, she came just to spend time with them. She'd sit on the floor helping Mia build puzzles or read bedtime stories while Daniel watched quietly from the doorway, realizing how naturally she fit into their lives. What began as gratitude slowly deepened into something neither of them dared to name. On one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Daniel grilled dinner on the balcony while Mia ran around with Bubbles. Claire joined him, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You know," she said with a faint smile, "I never planned to stop that night. I almost drove past your street. But something made me turn back." Daniel looked at her, his heart swelling. "Guess fate doesn't always knock politely," he replied with a laugh. They stood there in a comfortable silence, the city glowing beneath them. Claire turned to him, her voice soft. "You saved me that night more than you'll ever know. I'd been so lost in work and disappointment, but your kindness reminded me what matters most." Daniel set his mug down, his voice low and sincere. "You changed my life, Claire. That call you made, it didn't just give me a job. It gave me purpose again." For a moment, their eyes met, and neither looked away. Mia's giggle broke the silence, running up to them holding a bubble wand. "Daddy, Miss Claire made a heart," she exclaimed, pointing at a floating bubble that had somehow taken the shape of one. Claire laughed, blushing, and Daniel smiled, reaching for her hand. The gesture was simple, but it carried the weight of everything unsaid. That night, as the stars blinked awake and Mia drifted to sleep, Daniel and Claire sat together on the couch, the same couch where it had all begun, and realized that sometimes, love doesn't arrive with grand gestures or perfect timing. It begins with a single act of kindness, and the courage to open your door.